はい、委員長号令。
Oh, that's right. We had asked Mion that we were gonna like swap places with her, or that we wanted to swap places with her by going to school so we could talk to Satoshi, because all of a sudden he stopped showing up to school, right? So let's go from there. For a moment, I forgot that the class president was me.
起立。委員長も少し寝不足みたいですね。最近は寝苦しい夜が続きます。でもしっかりと睡眠はとるように。いいですね、皆さん。はーい。
I'm not sure this place can be called a school, because there are so many different age groups. It's like a kindergarten and an elementary school blended together. You know, it's interesting that these things get brought up. I'm not sure if this is like writing, well, I mean, sorry, that's not the right word for it. I'm not sure if the way this is written is to kind of like clue in a new player that for some reason was like, okay, well, this game looks interesting, I'm gonna play it, and they get to this chapter and they're like, why isn't it like a normal school? Oh, all the grades are like in the same room. That's weird. You know, that would only, I assume that would only apply either to someone that hasn't played this game before, or to remind the player, or it's just to emphasize things. Like Ryukishi is trying to emphasize certain things, specifically like whatever's going on through Shion's head right now, of like, maybe just have that sentence be a sort of contrast between like her personal school life that she just left and then her coming to Hinamizuwa for a little bit and then seeing like, oh man, this school is completely different from the one that I came from, you know? But anyway. Oh, since I'd already heard about what this place was like, I didn't feel that uncomfortable. It wasn't too difficult to act like me on here. Sis told me Satoshi-kun looked exhausted. I said hi to him, but he ignored me. Since I knew what he'd been going through, his pain looked apparent to me. I was interested in another person in this classroom. Satoko. Yeah, Satoko. Satoshi's little sister. Oh boy. She looked as worn out as Satoshi, emotionless, like an abandoned doll. Everybody in this room was aware of their circumstances, but no one could do a thing for them. So they just acted as though nothing was wrong. Mion will only let me have this one day. If I slacked off even a little bit today, today would be over with quickly. My god. I had to figure out what I should do in this limited time. I should probably talk to Satoshi. About what? Anything goes. Cheer him up, sympathize with him, anything will do. More than anything, I just wanted to chat with him. However, Sis had told me, she said Satoshi didn't communicate much with her lately, and he had distanced himself from her. I figured I shouldn't talk to him too casually. I wanted to, but maybe it was better to leave him alone. I needed to keep Sis's warning in mind, but instead I decided to ignore them. I looked for Satoshi during lunch break. He was walking as if looking for a place where he could be alone. I caught him in the hallway.
Satoshi-kun.
He turned around, startled by my voice. His facial expression surprised me. He was scowling, clearly a sign of rejection. But I couldn't hesitate. I'd lose my only chance if I did.
さ、元気?
He gave me a look as if saying, "Do I look fine to you?" I never expected to see an expression like that on his face. I felt like my heart was being torn into pieces. As I looked down, he spoke to me. I felt a little glad, but the next thing he said changed that.
元気だよ。他に用はないなら行くよ。昼休みは一人になりたいんだ。
そっか。バイトが大変なんだよね。疲れてるから一人になって休みたいもんね。今日もなんでしょ？今日はどこで？
Sis had found several jobs for him. He worked at a few different places. He was helping out when necessary at any of the shops Mion introduced him to. As a result, he constantly had to do different tasks in different environments almost every time. On top of that, he requested high-paying jobs from Mion because he wanted a large sum of money as soon as possible. In other words, he chose to mostly do manual labor. He was exhausted every day because he wasn't that physically strong.
どこでもいいだろう。それに、僕がどこで働くか、ミオンなら知ってることじゃないのかい？
Mion did help him get the job, yet Satoshi didn't look thankful for that opportunity. This wasn't like him at all. It made me feel sad.
そうだよね。ごめん。
要はそれで終わりかい？
He sounded so harsh. Why was he being like that? He would would he even stroke my head again? I couldn't help my tears. They flowed onto my cheeks. Satoshi looked confused for a moment, but then he frowned again.
ごめん。監督がさ、また練習に来てほしいなって言ってたよ。
監督にはもうチームは辞めたいって伝えたはずだよ。戻る気はないし。
たまにはさ、パッと体を動かして汗を流すのもいいと思うんだよ。ほら、スポーツっていろいろと。
興味ない。
I didn't know why he was being so hostile towards me. Why did he hate me so much? I was left bewildered.
なんで？どうして？
バイトで忙しいから。めんどくさい。
違うよ。なんで私がここまで嫌われなくちゃならないの？
自分の胸に聞けばいいじゃないか。
自分の胸に？何を？私が何をしたの？わかんないよ、サトシ君。
I couldn't control my emotions any longer. Streaks of tears ran down my cheeks. Satoshi gave me a hateful glare and walked away without saying another word. I couldn't even stop him. If I tried, he'd hurt me again with another cutting remark. I couldn't bear that, so I just watched him walk away. I wiped my tears and went back to the classroom. I heard somebody crying from inside. What's going on? I looked around the room to see. It was Satoko. I saw her bento box on the floor. I asked one of her classmates what happened, and it seemed that Satoko had bumped into somebody's shoulder when she stood up to go wash the box out. That was all. But Satoko was crying as if afraid she was going to be chided badly. What happened was very minor. She could just pick up the bento box and things would be fine. It looked like the lid came a little loose, but it was definitely fixable. She didn't have to cry like that. Yet Satoko started begging through her tears.
助けてよ。助けてよ。ニーニー。
Because of what happened with Satoshi, I couldn't suppress my emotions very well, so instead they exploded. I stormed up to Satoko while elbowing her classmates aside. I grabbed her by the head, then threw her into the wall. Oh my god! Satoko screamed. She didn't seem to understand what had happened. She was shedding tears and shivering. She must be wondering why I did that.
なんであんたがそういう目に遭うか。
Satoko cried for her brother's help again, and so I grabbed her head and threw it again. Satoko stumbled and crashed into a desk. The desk fell and the contents of the drawer scattered about. Satoko didn't even stand up. She just crouched and trembled while looking up at me.
助けて。助けて。ニーニー。ニーニー。あんたがそんなだから。
If you weren't like that, Satoshi wouldn't have to suffer. Don't you get it? That's what I wanted to say, but I was too angry to utter another word. Where's like Rena and Rika in this? Are they just watching? I picked up a bunch of textbooks from the floor and threw them at her face.
泣きたければ泣けばいい。でもね、泣いたってね、何も解決しない。なんで泣くの？ 泣けば誰かが助けてくれるから。その助けてくれる人があんたの代わりにどれだけ傷ついてるかなんて想像もつかないでしょ。分かってるの？あんたの罪が。あんたなんかいなければいい。苦しいなら死ね。へそでも噛んで勝手に死んじゃえばいい。サトシ君まで苦しめるな。一人で苦しんで一人で勝手に死ね。お前なんか死んでしまえ。
Her desperate cries only increased my irritation.
泣けばいいと思うな。サトシ君にすがれば済むと思うな。甘えるんじゃない。お前さえいなければ。お前さえいなければ。
I kept on throwing things at her. Satoko curled up to protect herself and cried even harder. At that point, a girl with long hair ran up and huddled over her. Oh my god. Like the angry Rika. I knew who that was. Rika Furude, one of Satoko's only friends.
サトコをいじめないでなのです。サトコはかわいそうなのです。いじめてはダメなのです。
かわいそうだから何をしても許されると思ってる？かわいそうだからサトシ君に寄りかかってもいいわけ？甘やかしてるんじゃないよ。こいつがどこまでも甘えてるからサトシ君が辛い思いをしなくちゃならないんだ。ダメ
なのです。サトコをいじめちゃダメなのです。
Rika also became the target of my anger.
私はね、その甘えきったサトコの根性を教育してやってんだよ。邪魔しやがるとあんたの頭から叩き割るよ。
I grabbed a chair and lifted it over my head. It wouldn't hurt only a little if I threw this thing at them. Sorry, that sentence got me off. It wouldn't hurt only a little if I threw this thing at them. Okay, I guess because again the translation is set to 1, which is why we saw the line "go fuck yourself" or something a bit ago. But anyway, Rika tightly closed her eyes and covered Satoko with her body. I didn't care what the consequences would be. I didn't care if I hurt them.
やめて、みーちゃん。
Rena returned to the classroom and shouted at me. Then Satoshi rushed in while pushing Rena aside. Seeming to have grasped the situation immediately, he charged straight at me. Until my body had hit the locker, I didn't understand what had happened. There was a loud crashing noise. I'd left a dent in it. I crouched there in pain.
サトコ！大丈夫か？サトコ！
Satoko pushed Rika aside, jumped at her brother, and started crying again.
どうしたんだよ一体。
And then here he is, like, super pissed off.
どうしてサトコが
私ね、何もしてないのに、ミオンさんが
どういうことだよミオン。
Satoshi shouted at me while clutching his sister. He looked fierce.
どういうことって？
サトコが何をしたよ。僕たちが何をしたよ。なんでいつもいじめられなきゃならないんだよ。どうしてだよ。
He released Satoko and rushed up to me, grabbing me by the neck.
さっきサトシ君は私に自分の胸に聞けって言ったよね。ならサトコの胸に聞いてみりゃいいじゃない。
何を。
サトシ君だって自分で認めてるんでしょ。サトコがあんたにべったり頼ってるから サトシ君の重荷になってるんでしょ。サトコがもっとしっかりしてればサトシ君がこんなに大変な思いをすることなんてない。そいつが全ての元凶なの。
God. I don't believe what I said was wrong. But after hearing it, Satoshi went berserk.
こいついい加減なこと言うんじゃない。
Satoshi grabbed my hair and threw me to the wall just like I did with Satoko. However, I wasn't going to back down. I no longer had any control over my emotions at all.
サトシ君だってサトコを甘やかしすぎてるよ。あんたがそうやって際限なく甘やかすからそいつはいつまでたってもあんたにすがってばかりなんだよ。
お前に僕たちの何がわかる。何がわかるってんだよ。当然や母さんを村ぐるみで追い詰めて、そして今度は僕たちか。それが園崎家のやり方なんだろう。どこまでも村の裏切り者をいじめ抜く。そんなに楽しいかよ。弱い者いじめがそんなに楽しいかよ。
もうやめて。
That was Rena's voice. She stepped in looking as fierce as a demon.
サトシ君
Or
も
probably
うや
ogre.
めてあげて。
I'm not sure which one they used. Anyway.
みーちゃんに悪気はなかった。サトシ君の力になってあげたくてその気持ちがちょっとずれて空回りしちゃっただけね。
Satoshi looked like he wanted to say something back, but he chose not to.
みーちゃんももうやめて。みーちゃんが誰よりもサトシ君のことを心配してるのは知ってる。だけれどこんなやり方はそれの解決にはならない。そんなのちょっと落ち着いて考えればわかることだよね。
Since Satoshi didn't say anything, I kept quiet too.
ほらサトコちゃんもお弁当箱を落としたくらいで泣くことはないよね。落ち着いた？
サトコ、僕がお弁当箱を拾ってあげますよ。
Rika started picking up the bento box while its owner continued to cry.
みんな片付けを手伝ってくれる？もうすぐ先生がカレー菜園から戻ってくる頃だよ。これでもう喧嘩は終わったから先生には余計なことは言わない。いいね。
The classmates looked at each other and nodded, then started picking up the stuff on the floor. My god.
はい、サトシ君もみーちゃんも仲直りの握手。ほら。ごめん、こんなつもりじゃなかったのに。
Tears started to roll down my cheeks again.
僕も悪かった。僕たちがいじめられてるのは大人。ごめん。
さあ、みーちゃんは次にさとこちゃんに謝る。はい。
I don't think we've seen this face before. Like her kinda... like teary-eyed but angry and sad. I think we've seen this one though. But the situation wouldn't be settled otherwise, so I reluctantly apologized. Satoko nodded, looking discouraged. And here she is again. After that, Rena let me go. My head ached, so I held it with both hands. What was that? What did I do? I didn't want to use this precious time to fight. Sis had warned me. She told me that I shouldn't talk to Satoshi just like that. What did I come here for? Or what did I come here for? I shouldn't have come here if I knew this was going to happen. Stupid, you're stupid, Shion. I was overcome by emotions because I was so worried about Satoshi. When did things go wrong? Were they actually wrong from the beginning? I got into a fight with Satoshi. This was totally the opposite of what I wanted. I regretted it. I hated myself for it. I couldn't blame myself enough. My world had been torn apart. I wished the sky would fall and kill me. Also, hey Lethal Kate, thanks for stopping by. Sis sounded both amazed and confused.
ただでさえ綿流しの直前でいろいろと忙しいってのに、シオンは話をさらにややこしくしてくれるな。
Yeah, I was about to say, like, man, it's like imagine someone pretended to be you somewhere. At work, at school, at home. And they ruin your reputation in an afternoon. It goes from whatever reputation it was now, to, I don't know, man, like, you go from being, let's say, a respected member of that environment, to all of a sudden be known to be violent, to throw shit at children, and the fact that you almost hit, like, a 7-year-old with a chair. She's like, well, you certainly made things more complicated. I'd be kind of pissed off. You know, I'd be a little like, you kind of ruined shit really bad. Like, I'd be pretty miffed.
ごめん。
She tried to say something, but she stopped in the middle. After listening to a few complaints, I started telling her about everything that happened today. Sis had to pretend that the trouble I caused today was her responsibility, which must have been very taxing
も
for
う
her.
当分は入れ替わる機会はない。
シオン、あんた、ちょっとは私の迷惑を考えてほしいな。
Yeah. she's being a little insensitive, you know. She tells her like, "Hey, by the way, I got into an argument with Satoshi. I started physically abusing his little sister. I almost grabbed a chair and smacked her with it. You know, like I almost crushed a chair onto a 7-year-old skull while she was trembling on the floor, shielding herself from my attacks as I was throwing books and other things at her." So does that mean that we won't be able to trade spots for a while? Like, yes, Shion, you should probably be thinking more about, like, what you just did to Mion.
それは。うん。
Sis had been sympathetic, but maybe I pushed her too far this time. Of course, she'd been hesitant to trade spots considering what I did today. The atmosphere felt awkward, so we were both silent for a while.
仮にさ、もう一回機会があったとして、シオンはどうするの？
That was a reasonable question. I wasn't prepared to answer, though. If I had a chance to go to the school once again and see Satoshi, what would I do? Would I apologize to him about today? I don't think that would work. That might even upset him again, no matter how hard I tried. Okay, here's something that he was saying. It was the Sonozuki family who had been harassing his. It would only be natural for him to hold a grudge against us. But why was he only expressing that now? I've been a Sonozuki to him all along. Satoshi stroked my head even though he knew that I was Mion Sonozuki.
おねえ、率直なところ、サトシ君は園崎家を恨んでるんだよね。
だと思う。
It was our family that initiated the persecution of the Hojo family, making them into scapegoats. Even after the dam conflict, it wasn't easy for the Hojo family to live with Hinamizawa. But you also have to remember, as far as we know, the Hojo family were not only sympathizers, but also in favor of the dam project. Which, again, is like a huge taboo in Hinamizawa. Not because, well, you know, not because people would not like the idea, but because people despised the idea. Like, imagine if, you know, for some reason, wherever you lived, your whole block was about to be submerged. Your whole town was about to be swallowed by water. So people are protesting against it. And then you have like 1 or 2 neighbors that are like, well, actually, I think it's a good idea. Sure, flood the whole thing. At that point, you probably just tell them, well, why don't you just fucking move out? We want to live here. We don't want to go anywhere. You should leave, right? So again, as far as we know, from what we've experienced, from what we've been told, at least we know the Hojo family is sympathetic or was in favor of the dam project. Now, whether or not this has been, say, I don't want to use the word propaganda, but let's say if this has been carefully like chosen dialogue for us, the reader, to try to maybe not sympathize as much with the Hojo family, because we're viewing things through the lenses of whomever is telling us all this information, then I can see that being a thing. For all we know, they weren't, in favor of it, and they were like Satoshi said, they were they were scapegoats for that excuse. Given all of that, it's not surprising that Satoshi hates us. The Sonozaki family who put his family in a devastating situation.
でもさ、だったらなんで今頃になってなの？なんで今頃になってそれならいっそ。
If he had rejected me in the first place, I wouldn't have wanted to get close to him. My tears wet my cheeks. I didn't bother to wipe them. It's only natural for him to hold a grudge against the Sonozakis. There's nothing unusual about it. Rather, why has he been treating me like a friend? I knew how stupid this question was.
サトシが大人だったからとしか言えないと思う。
そんなのひどいよ。
He'd been treating me as a friend because he was mature? But now that he'd become stressed mentally and physically, he's decided to reject me? No matter how hard I thought about it, I couldn't find any fault with it. I couldn't find anything to fault him with. If there was somebody to blame, it'd be somebody If there was somebody to blame, it'd be somebody I'd never accused before. Yourself?
なんで鬼ババはサトシ君の一家をいじめようって言い出したわけ？
Grandma, of course.
ダムに賛成したのはサトシ君の親でしょ？サトシ君が賛成していたわけじゃないでしょ？なんで一家丸ごといじめようって話になったの？
I think it's because of the whole,
どうしてよ？
if someone goes after us, we go after all of them. I talked about this last time, and multiple times throughout, this entire series, but that's just been the Hinamizawa, law. If someone comes after you, if someone does something bad to you, if someone hurts one person of your family, you hurt 3 of theirs. If someone hurts 3, you hurt 6, and so on and so forth. Mion couldn't say anything in return. Actually, it wasn't at all hard to guess the reason. The hag didn't give any specific order to harass the Hojo family. She just thought the Hojo family was getting in the way. The people around her noticed what was bothering her and took the steps to get rid of it. Though, of course, she must have known how influential her own words were. She didn't just think it. She gave what she must have known would be interpreted as an order. She's the one to blame for initiating the attack on the Hojo family.
前にお姉はフルデの神主さんのことを和を乱すのは大人じゃないみたいなことを言いましたよね。つまりこれもそういうわけ。村中が団結しなきゃならない時に異を唱える北条家は大人じゃなかったと。だから制裁する必要があったと。そういうわけなんでしょ？
Mion couldn't say anything in return, meaning that my accusation was the truth.
なら制裁は北条の親だけで十分じゃない。本家の拷問室にでも連れ込んで指の一本も跳ねてやったらいい。でもそこまでで十分でしょ？サトシ君は関係ない。サトシ君には何の関係もない。サトシ君が何をしたっていうの？サトシ君に何の罪があるっていうの？答えてよ。答えてよ、ミオン。ミオン。
はい。ではよろしくお願いいたしますね。失礼いたします。
Mion suddenly changed her tone and hung up. She must have done that to escape my questions. I was furious. I started redialing the number. But then I remembered that we decided she'd hang up the phone after using that phrase when she saw the hag coming. I doubted she actually saw the hag, but it was the rule, so I couldn't call back for a while. I went to the bathroom to wash my face and cool down. I turned the faucet. The faucet felt lukewarm. It didn't help me cool down at all. Oh boy. I'm disgusted by my own childishness. I just wanted to fill my void. I didn't care about him, considering that Satoshi was very generous, but I don't know if I can forgive Satoko. That's a different story. Notebook page 26. This was a very, very, very intense chapter so far. Or this has been a very intense chapter so far, I mean. I thought it was going to end and I was going to correct myself. I was looking up at the ceiling with my arms and legs spread out. It's not that I wasn't getting hungry. I didn't live with my parents. I didn't live in the school dorm. That meant I had to cook something myself when I wanted to eat. I knew that, but I still didn't feel like getting up. It had been several days since I began this empty life. It must be tomorrow. The Watanagashi festival, I mean. Okay. I heard the doorbell ring. I ignored it at first, but it rung persistently. I started hearing knocking alongside Kasaya's rude voice.
シオンさん、いらっしゃるなら開けてください。弁当を買ってきました。
I didn't ask him to. He must have known that I hadn't eaten enough and thought that I'd been feeling down lately.
やはり食事を取られていませんでしたか。
別にお腹が空いてるわけじゃないし。
But when Kasai put the food on the table, my stomach reacted in a very primitive way by making some noise.
ほら、お腹が鳴っている。
Here he is, smugly smiling, or smiling smugly. I mean, his console art style looks kind of weird, if I'm honest. I feel like maybe his forehead should be like a few centimeters lower, if that makes sense. It's quite the five head.
食べた方がいいですよ。
I was hungry but had no appetite. I mean, I did have an appetite, but I didn't have the energy to eat. Yet I'd feel bad wasting the food Kasai had brought. I picked up my chopsticks just to humor him.
最近はばあさんがマークしてるんじゃなかったの？私のとこなんかに来て大丈夫なわけ？
おりょうさんは綿流しの打ち合わせなどでお忙しく、シオンさんのことまでは最近は頭が回らないようでしたので、クリームコロッケは好物ではありませんでしたか？
うん。美味しいです。ありがとう。
While I nibbled on the food, Kasai read through the magazines I bought.
葛西は、うん。
I never talked to Kasai about something like this before. Since I've always believed myself superior to him psychologically, I hesitated to show my weakness to him.
そういう悩みも年頃にしておくのは悪いもんじゃありませんよ。
So he already knows. Also, before we continue, this background is a little different. We hadn't seen it before, but here is the console version of what I assume to be Mion's room. Either that or it's another side of the apartment that we haven't seen yet. And then here it is on the classic version. Because there you can see the bed, a table, and then like another table.
葛西、あんた全部知ってる？
ミオンさんから少々力になってほしいと頼まれました。
お姉か。
心配しておられましたよ、ミオンさん。
Without responding, I threw the last croquette in my mouth.
北条聡君の近況を知りたがっていると思いまして、少し情報を集めてきましたが、余計なお世話でしたか？
余計なお世話です。 でもせっかく集めてきた葛西の顔を立てるために、まあ一応聞いておきます。
She's such a fucking tsundere. Kasai chuckled, but stopped quickly as if thinking it rude.
北条哲平が家を出たらしいです。
Teppei being the uncle.
沖宮に実婚の関係の女性がいまして、そこへ転げ込んだようです。
鉄平？誰？ああ、サトシ君のおじか。
家には叔母の北条玉江と北条聡、聡子の3人となりました。玉江は哲平が別の女性のところへ逃げたのだと気づき、大層機嫌を悪くしたらしいですね。
ってことはあれだ。ますます叔母の里子いびりが加速して、サトシ君もそれのとばっちりで、ますますに苦労してるってことか。
Yeah.
サトシ君の方は分かりませんが、聡子さんの方は近所でも噂になるくらい決して良くはない状況です。
If Satoko looks miserable, that means Satoshi must be going through equally miserable torture.
その叔母ってなんとかならないの？憎き北条家の片割れなわけだから、その先本家で制裁しちゃおうって話にはなってないの？
She's also one of the remaining Hojos after all. The uncle is gone, so why not the aunt?
園崎本家としては北条夫妻の事故死で一応のけじめがついたので、北条関連では一切手を出すなと言命が出ています。夫妻の事故死を疑う警察が北条家近辺を未だマークしているという噂がありますので。
事故死はお社様のたたりってことになってるからね。神罰が下ったんなら、それ以上は人間が下すまでもないってこと。
Kasai put on a faint smile. Come to think of it, it's hard not to suspect the involvement of the Sonozaki family in all of the incidents said to be Oyashiro-sama's curse. Somebody strives to get rid of the hag's concerns on the day of the Watanagashi festival. Right. That's what I was about to bring up. So it's like, can't they get rid of them? Well, coincidentally, tomorrow is the Watanagashi. Furthermore, the Watanagashi festival is going to be held tomorrow, yes. Will the curse strike again this year? If so, who will be the victim? Now that I think about it, there were cases of multiple victims in the past. The first and third year, it was just one, but the second year, the victims were a couple. So it wouldn't be too strange if 2 people fell victim this year. It seems like a good time. It'd be best for Satoko and her aunt to be the victims. For Satoko and her aunt to be the victim. Oh my god. Satoshi would be freed from every source of his worries all at once.
Kasai.
My god. I mean, I get it, right? I totally get where Shion is coming from. But holy shit, like, if she wasn't, again, she sounds like a monster, right? Oh, his little sister that's annoying him, and his aunt would be gone, so he can finally be happy. That's wonderful, right? It sounds horrible. But you have to remember that Shion is also like 14, right? She doesn't have, you know, she's not an adult. She doesn't think like adults do. And that's what makes her writing so great. That's what makes Ryukishi such a great writer, is stuff like this. Because again, it makes you, like anybody with empathy would kind of hate Mion at this point. Or sorry, Shion. They'd be like, what the fuck is her problem? But the fact that you're asking yourself these questions, the fact that you're thinking this, if you are, is great. Is a good sign. It's a sign of good writing. That's what happens when like a villain in a movie or in a show or in a manga does something so fucked up that it makes you think like, man, I fucking hate this guy. Like, that's good writing. For the most part. Anyway.
今年のお社様のたたりの犠牲者は誰かってもう決まってるの？決めるのはばあさん？ならお姉は明日の犠牲者をもう知ってるってことになるな。どうなの葛西？何か聞かされてる？
シオンさん、私はその件については一切聞かされていません。
まあそりゃそうか。 火災ごときの耳に本家の最高機密が入るわけもないか。
そういうことです。少なくとも私の関係する界隈ではそういう話は降りてきていません。ですがご存知の通り本家は裏の世界の方々に通じます。私にはその一部を垣間見ることも叶いません。
Maybe I could try asking Sis about it. But she won't talk. She's strict about keeping promises, unlike me. If the hag told her to keep a secret, she'd take it to her grave.
今年の綿流しでおばと聡子が消えちまえばいいのにな。葛西、私は憂慮したよ。気を利かせてくれると嬉しいんですけど。
シオンさん、ご冗談を。
わーってるって。言ってみただけだって。
I took a glimpse at Kasai. It didn't look like he was actually going to do something to make my wish come true. I wasn't able to go to the village as myself, so I definitely wasn't going to the festival. I didn't care about that. Even so, I was interested in who was going to end up as the victim of the curse. If I just kept lying on this couch playing hooky, somebody would fall victim in several hours. I had no clue why it had to happen every year. But I was certain that the hag was behind it. All the enemies from the dam conflict had been punished. Only the Hojo couple was left, since most of the other enemies had already gone. The cicadas were crying loudly outside. It made me feel hot. Why was it this hot and humid in June? If Oyashiro-sama was actually punishing people, I'd pray for one thing. I'd pray that the evil aunt would be punished, and I'd offer up Satoko as a sacrifice. It's hot. Instead of a ha, it was probably like, ha, it's hot. Anyway, when I woke up, Kasai had already gone. Looks like he cleaned the table in the surrounding room. He put my dirty laundry into the hamper in front of the washing machine too. Being a girl of a sensitive age, I didn't want a man to clean my room. Well, I'd rather thank him than badmouth him. I looked at the clock. It was late in the afternoon. I had to go grocery shopping. There was nothing left in the fridge, and I'd be having just rice for dinner if I didn't go. At that moment, the phone rang. It must be Kasai, I thought. I did hope it was him. He could have brought more food, so then I wouldn't have to go shopping. While I was just being lazy, I didn't feel like going out at all. But it wasn't Kasai on the phone.
おねえ、そこどこ？本家じゃない？
Oh, it really does say Soko, Doko. I never heard that. I'd never heard, I don't think I've ever heard that sentence before.
あ、うん。公衆電話からかけてる。だから手短に話すよ。サトシから電話が来たんだよ。
サトシ君が？お姉に？
多分、私にじゃないと思う。シオンにだと思う。サトシは、先日の教室での件を謝りたがってるみたいだった。だから、その電話はシオンが受けた方がいいと思って。サトシの電話は、今ちょっと忙しいからすぐかけ直すって言って切ってあるの。だからシオンは、今から私が言う電話番号に電話してあげて。
うん、わかった。
I was stunned for a second, but then recovered and wrote down the number on the back of a magazine.
ありがとう。
God, I remember doing that. Like whenever there wasn't like a sheet of paper or something around, you would grab a magazine or a newspaper or anything, and just a pen that you would have somewhere in your room or on the table or on a drawer, you know, or on a cabinet. Not a cabinet, yeah, just on a drawer. And then you'd just write it down.
すぐに電話します。
そうしてあげて。サトシは最近すごく追い詰められてるの。私の声はもう届かないみたいだけど、シオンの声ならひょっとすると届くかもしれないって何の根拠もなく思ってる。
I don't think he'll listen to me anymore, but I think he'll listen to you. Sorry, once again, for me, it's been a week. I'm trying to remember if last week, in chapter 2 or 3, if there was a time skip between, you know, us speaking to Sato. I'm pretty sure there was, actually. It was, what was it? We had, in chapter 3 is when we had the baseball arc, right? So we had Shion show up as a coach. Sorry, as a manager. And then, like, days would pass and we would get an insight into each, like, day of practice or something. So days would pass, and as the days would pass, you know, Satoshi would get a lot more upset, and then he just stopped showing up. So he would get to see, I mean, try to, like, imagine how confused Satoshi must have been. Where, you know, he saved Mion from being, well, he saved Shion from being assaulted. So then he goes to school the following day. And then, you know, he talks to Mion and asks her if she's okay. She's, like, confused. And then he's like, oh, I saved you and you were crying and stuff. And her being like, oh, yeah, thanks. You know, and then Mion, who has no feelings for this guy, has to now, like, you know, balance her emotions. And as we know, Mion can also be very cold. So Satoshi would be maybe interacting with, like, a cold version of Mion one moment, and then a warm and sweet, caring version of her the next, like in the afternoon, when he saw her in the park, or when he saw her grocery shopping, or anything like that. And in here, we have Mion say, I don't think he'll listen to me anymore, but I think he'll listen to you. She could have pretended to be me and handled his call, but she passed it over to
あり
me.
がとうミオン。
じゃあね、シオン。
Before she hung up, I put the handset down. Then after a second, I dialed the number in the flash. I heard the dial tone. 3 times. 4 times. And there he was.
北条です。
He sounded like an adult. His voice sounded a bit tired too, but it was definitely the voice I loved. I got scared. I was scared that he might become sulky again if I mentioned my name. I couldn't open my mouth for a while.
サトシ君ですよね。
さっきはごめん。もう時間は大丈夫なの？
That was the Satoshi that I knew. He didn't sound cold like the other day.
うん。全然平気です。
After that, he went silent. I felt the urge to start a conversation. It wasn't fair. It wasn't fair. He was the one who called in the first place. Then he finally spoke.
先日はごめん。
私こそごめんなさいです。
ミオンは謝らなくていいよ。僕がどうかしてた。
You don't have to apologize because I was in the wrong. He really is being very mature about this. I wonder, like, if there were people who were reading this chapter for the first time and thought that Shion was in the right. Like, I really wonder if there were people that thought that, you know, that maybe Shion was correct in throwing books at Satoko and yelling at her and almost throwing a chair at her. I wonder. Because here, like, if you think about it from Satoshi's perspective, right? Not only is he stressed out, that's 1. Not only does he have to deal with his family stuff at home, that's 2. Not only is he being worked to death for the most part so he can try to do something. He's trying to earn a lot of money so he could do something nice for his sister, as far as we know. We know that he eventually ends up running away or disappearing, so maybe that contributes to it. It hasn't been confirmed. That's 3. But first and foremost, or 4th, but the most important thing, is that he assaulted the heir to the Sonozaki family. So, even if he was pissed off, he probably had to calm down and think, no matter what the fuck is going on through my life, I have to apologize and make amends because I do not want the Sonozaki family to persecute my sister. That's more than likely what could be going on through his head. Maybe. And if so, my god, that's pretty unfortunate. But he could also be just actually apologizing. He could be genuinely sorry. But I'm pretty sure there's, you know, some undertones to his apology. It was just sad. Sorry, it was sad just talking to him over the phone.
僕たちをここまで追い込んだ奴らをそいつらはでも決してミオンじゃなかったんだだから僕は君にだけは謝ろうと思って
気にしないで。私だってサトシ君のことをよく理解しようともせず無神経だった。
We apologized to each other a few times.
それよりサトシ君大丈夫？いろいろと大変なのにサトコの誕生日プレゼントのためにアルバイトまでしてだいぶ追い詰められてるんじゃない？
She said presento. I couldn't quite hear what she said exactly.
もうバイトはやめたよ
But I assume she said something like you're working and under a lot of stress for a present. Isn't that too much?
目標額のお金はなんとか貯められたみたいだからね
そうなんだ。ならもう体を無理させなくていいんですね。本当によかった。
Satoshi tried to say something, but he dropped it instead.
僕よりサトコの方が辛い
サトコ大変なことになっていますね。大丈夫なんですか？
あれが大丈夫なように見えるのかよ
He suddenly sounded upset. I'd messed up.
ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。
I was so stupid. I had ruined this miraculous conversation with him. Satoshi didn't respond to my apology, so I stopped apologizing.
あんなに誰が見てもわかるくらいに傷ついてボロみんな見捨てたどこ見捨てた
見捨てたつもりなんて。
I tried to calm him down. I hated what I just said because of how hollow it sounded. I had no idea what to say next. I felt guilty. Satoshi was desperate to protect Satoko from their evil aunt. But I'd wished that Satoko would die tomorrow because of the curse. I was trampling on his desperate hope.
サトコはもう擦り切れる直前なんだだから
He cut himself off in the middle and went quiet for a moment. He must have been choosing his words carefully. Then he finally spoke. His words sounded hollow.
だからせめて一夜くらい遊ばせてやりたいんだ
Wait a fucking minute. Hold on.
遊ばせるって。
ほら明日は綿流しのお祭りじゃないかサトコを祭りに連れ出してやってほしいんだ
Holy fuck. Wait a minute then. You can't see me, but like I'm pondering a lot. I'm thinking, like my mind is rushing. I'm trying to remember what happened in Watanagashi. No, in Tatari Goroshi. Because remember, Keiichi wanted to kill Satoko's uncle. So he called Mion, who responded and said that there was like a party going on at her house. You know, everyone was getting ready for the Watanagashi the following day. They were doing the final preparations, so, you know, she was a little drunk. And Keiichi says to her, I want Satoko to have a fun night. The Watanagashi festival is tomorrow. Can you please take her with you? Mion then starts to cry. She starts to tear up and says, why are you telling me this again? You said this last time and then you disappeared. Something like that. So then, during that specific planning or that part of the Watanagashi, Mion had swapped places with Shion. Huh. Hmm.
それは構わないけど、どうして？
聡子もいろいろと参ってる。たとえ一夜でもおばさんのいないところで羽を伸ばせたなら。
だからどうして？
どうしてって。
It's not that I didn't understand why he wanted her taken to the festival. What I didn't understand is why he was asking me to do that. Was there any reason he couldn't take her there himself? I had a hunch that he might disappear, so I kept asking.
どうしてって何がだい？
どうしてサトシ君が自分で連れて行ってあげないの？
He fell silent. Satoshi isn't good at lying or keeping secrets. It was clear that he wanted to hide something.
用事だよ。僕、明日はちょっとバイトの関係で用事があって、どうしても祭りには行けないんだ。
Need to take care of something with work, huh? The work you quit? He was lying, but he was also stubborn. He wouldn't admit it if I accused him.
ねえ、ミオン。明日の夜だけ、聡子を頼めないかな。
I wouldn't want to look after Satoko, even at Satoshi's request. But I'm also glad that he's relying on
あ
me.
れだけの暴言をぶつけて、それを謝るついでに、ミオンだけが頼りなんだ。
I didn't know what to say. I did know, though, that I wasn't going to turn down his request. Actually, 1 second. Okay.
うん。わかった。明日の晩だけだよ。
できたら明日の晩だけじゃなく、これからもずっとがいいな。
何言ってるんですか？そんなの嫌です。明日だけですからね。
He sounded as if he were going to disappear tomorrow. I didn't like the sound of that, so I intentionally sounded sulky. We talked about trivial stuff. Oh boy. For just a little while. When the conversation was almost over, Satoshi asked something else.
ねえ、ミオン。こんなことを話すと、きっと精神的に病んでるって思われるんで、本当。
どうしたんですか？
ミオンは信じないよね。
何をですか？
ほら、お社様のたたり。
サトシ君、何の話ですか？
お社様は確かほら、村を捨てて逃げ出そうとするとたたるでしょ。
That's the rule. Every kid in the village knows that.
そういうことになってましたね。どうしたんです？突然。村を捨てて逃げようとでもしてるんですか？
Though I was kidding, I wanted him to deny it.
もうそんな気はないんだ。もう
He admitted that he had thought of it. I guess that I guess that Ina told me that much.
いいじゃないですか。もうそんな気がないのなら。
でもまだ許してもらえないんだ。
Satoshi tried to say something but hesitated. He was breathing so heavily. Was he sick?
具合悪いの？
ごめん。そういうわけじゃないんだ。
サトシ君は少し頑張りすぎたからいろいろ疲れてるんです。少し休んだ方がいいです。
He sounded distinctly more sickly from when this conversation had started. He breathed heavily when punctuating his words. Satoshi repeated his question.
ミオン、最初の質問をもう一度するよ。ミオンはお社様のたたりって存在すると思うかい？
What did he want me to say? Could I make him feel relieved with my answer? How should I respond? The answer was simple.
たたりなんてあるわけないじゃないですか。
I didn't know what was bothering him, but I wanted to make him feel better by laughing his worries away. But Satoshi instead fell silent. Would my answer make him happy, or maybe sad? I couldn't tell. One thing was certain. I didn't make him feel any better.
変なことを聞いてごめん。
ごめん。
I felt like I let him down, so I apologized in a rush.
たたりだろうと、この村の何者かの陰謀だろうと、僕は絶対に消えない。消されない。
消えないよ、サトシ君。
消えないよ。サトコにあのぬいぐるみを買ってやるまではね。もうすぐお給料がもらえることになってる。その日までは絶対に消えない。
He said I definitely won't go anywhere until then. He chuckled. I knew he was trying to relieve me, but it worked the opposite way. He sounded as though he didn't care what would happen after he bought the teddy bear.
おばさんが帰ってきたからもう切るよ。
うん。
ミオン、
何？
Even though he wanted to hang up the phone because his aunt was coming back, Satoshi took a breath to tell me something important.
サトコのこと頼むからね。
I should have said yes right away, but I still couldn't forgive Satoko, so I just kept quiet.
変なこと頼んでごめんじゃ。
He was obviously disappointed. What had I done? I wanted to apologize. I wish I could. But it was too late. The dial tone left no doubt. Now that was depressing. Or, now that was depressing. Oh man. What a chapter. Like, that one flew by. Oh wait, we had done chapter 4 already. This is chapter 5. What am I talking about? Oh boy. Let's view the tip real quick. A torn diary. Somebody whispered to me from behind. They told me that I was going to be the victim of the curse this year, so I'm going to disappear soon. There will be nobody left to take care of Satoko. Somebody whispered to me from behind. They told me that I don't have much time, that I won't stay as myself much longer, so I had to make the best of the days I had left. What could I leave for Satoko? She wanted that huge teddy bear. She wanted a peaceful life in which nobody would bully her. I whispered to the person at my back. Bestow your violent nature and formidable strength upon me. I want your peaceful mind filled with hatred. I want to quickly check something here in the tips menu, or tip menus. Yeah, so all the books are different. And you can tell by the background once they change. Like this one and this one look similar. But this one is a darker shade of blue than this one. I'm sure if I were to go back through all of the old, question arcs, and I look through all the books, or I look carefully at all the books, I'd be able to tell, or if I look at all the tips, we'd know, like, okay, so these belong to the same person, this belongs to, this person 1, person 2, person 3, person 4, right? So we've got notebooks, and we've got diaries. But these might be different diaries from Mion/Shion. Not sure yet, but it's quite something. But all right, let's move on to the next one. Hopefully, if this chapter isn't too long, we've got quite a bit of time for it. But this is going to be the big one, the big Watanagashi Festival. Speaking of, the day of the Watanagashi Festival. June 20th, 1982, 1:40 p.m. What was I doing today? Nothing in particular. Nothing at all. I just wanted to play hooky. I woke up in the afternoon. I ate instant food for lunch while watching boring TV programs. I had a light headache, so I lay down on the sofa. I wouldn't wake up again if I went to sleep. Whatever. I decided to sleep. I'd already told Sis that Satoshi had asked her to look after Satoko. I didn't have to do anything myself. I fell asleep, though my head was aching a little bit. That would be all I'd have to deal with. June 20th, 1982, 5:02 p.m. The aunt believed that all the villagers frowned upon her because her brother-in-law and his wife were pro-dam activists. She surely experienced some fallout during the time of the dispute, but people had stopped looking coldly upon her even though she assumed otherwise. She was paranoid, believing that all the villagers hated her, and so she decided to hate them back. I should add, I forgot to mention this during the tip, but as we know, again, anytime the Watanagashi Festival was coming up for chapters 1, 2, and 3, Keiichi would start to act very weird and very differently. He would start hearing voices, he would start hearing footsteps, or not voices, he would start hearing footsteps specifically, and he would think that somebody was there with him, that somebody was stalking him, that somebody was following him, right? We know that much. It turns out Satoshi was kind of going through something similar. In fact, Satoshi was talking to whomever or whatever was behind him. So it seems like at least Satoshi... Well, actually, I think Keiichi did as well. If I'm remembering correctly, after the 1500 seconds thing, he was like, Oyashiro-sama, if you are there, help me get rid of Satoko's uncle. Something like that. Anyway. Her attitude, of course, begot hatred from the villagers, and the situation became exactly the way she thought it was from the start. Yeah. What came first, their poor relationships with the neighbors, or her husband's affair? She didn't know herself. Her husband claimed that he got a lover because he was fed up with her attitude. She, in turn, claimed that their relationship with the neighbors went sour because her husband had damaged her reputation. Only Satoshi was aware that both happened at almost the same time. Their quarrels have become a daily routine now. When the husband came home late, the wife would shout at him at the entrance. Satoshi wondered why they didn't get a divorce and their marriage being as rotten as it was. But he secretly knew the reason for that too. It was the fortune his parents had left. His aunt had hidden their bank book and stamp and never allowed her husband to access them. By stamp, they mean, how to word it? It's like a literal stamp. Like, you know, the ones that you dip in ink, like in an ink sponge, and then you use that on like a piece of paper. Like, you know, when something gets voided at some important office, they kind of smudge a stamp, and then they like slap it onto the piece of paper, and it says like void or approved or whatever, right? In Japan, they have this as well, but the ones that they have in Japan are usually for the character. By that I mean the literal like letter, right, or symbol for the person's last name. I don't remember if they have one for the first name, but I'm pretty sure they do have it. They only have it for the last name, whatever symbol they use for the last name. So like think of the character for love, right? The character for love is I, right? Like just it's the kanji for I, or sorry, the kanji for love is I. So imagine a symbol or a stamp with that symbol on it. So like it's a little circle that you dip in ink and then you stamp onto a piece of paper. So that's what they use to sign off on things. So if you get a package delivered, I believe you could sign it, but people tend to just stamp it if it's a physical like paper. So that's what they're referring to by this. And it's a very important thing to have, and you need it in Japan constantly. Like you have to carry that shit with you everywhere, as far as I know, because if you ever need to sign something important, you need to have your stamp with you. So her husband would search the house for them. She'd find out he stole some money from her purse, and this would cause yet another fight. Satoshi had never been aware that his parents had that much money when they were alive. After their death, however, one of his relatives told him. He was informed that his parents had left a large sum of money in some bank account. Satoshi couldn't understand why they had that kind of money because his family had been, as far as he knew, poor. It was because of the dam project. His parents probably got the money in return for their cooperation with the government. Exactly. So that's why they got a bunch of money, which is something that I was going to bring up a while ago, where he was like, I don't know why they were being persecuted. It's probably because of this, because they agreed they were supporting the dam project and thus got money out of it. They had strived to get more villagers on their side, provided information to them and whatnot, but that money was probably a compensation for their efforts. His aunt and uncle never had any intention to adopt them until they heard about the money. After someone from the financial institution revealed its existence, they appeared to adopt Satoko and Satoshi. The couple would fight every day. Eventually, Satoshi's uncle started spending more time at his mistress's home. He realized that he had no reason to return to his own home, because he'd just end up in a fight with his wife if he did. When he stopped coming home, Satoshi felt relieved. Neither their uncle nor their aunt treated the two siblings very well. Satoshi's aunt wouldn't have to vent her frustration upon them. The reason the couple fought was their corrupted relationship, so if they separated, there wouldn't be any more fights. Satoshi had thought that at first. But even after they separated, his aunt still had a very short temper. Another woman had stolen her husband. The villagers must have been talking behind her back. It was mortifyingly embarrassing. Since she had lost an opponent to fight, Satoshi's aunt directed her hatred toward the siblings. Satoshi had been observing her. He learned when she would get upset and how to avoid her attention. He managed to get by without upsetting her by turning a keen eye to her behavior and avoiding conflicts. But Satoko couldn't do that. She hated her aunt and didn't even try to hide it. Satoshi told her to behave in her aunt's presence, but her eyes were always filled with hatred. Satoshi strived to reduce the conflict between them as much as possible. He stepped in to mend their relationship. It was a heavy burden for him, though, because he was still just a boy. He bore so much. He covered for his little sister by lying and maneuvering. He tried to maintain a tangible sense of peace, but he couldn't do that forever. The relationship between Satoko and her aunt had already been spiraling out of control. Satoshi found something in the trash. It probably wasn't a legitimate place for trash disposal. If it was, sanitation workers would come and pick it up. He passed by the street all the time, so he noticed when there were new things dumped there. He found a plain-looking desk of the kind likely to be seen in offices. Somebody must have dumped it within the past few days. His aunt liked to bring usable trash home. Since she'd had Satoshi help him bring a chest home just a few days ago. If he told her about the desk, she'd want it. His aunt hated to find bugs and garbage in the drawers, so she'd always open them to check before carrying things home. Satoshi opened all the drawers, all of which were empty. After that, he turned around and walked for about 5 steps. He was standing in a knee-high bush. There he laid something he'd been carrying all this time until today. Very hard to find unless he specifically knew where it was to begin with. Looking satisfied, Satoshi looked around for some landmark to remember the place by. It's his bat. June 20th, 1982, 5:51 p.m.
へい親父、今年も来たね。また根こそぎかっさらってくから覚悟し。
いやその先のお嬢ちゃんは今年も元気がいいな。そっちの子は新顔かい？
この子はね、竜宮レナ。こう見えてても結構やるよ。
そんなことないよ。よろしくお願いしますね。
おう、こっちこそよろしくな。今年もいろいろ景品を持ってきたんだぜ。もちろん真剣勝負だ。根こそぎ持ってけるもんなら持ってけってんだ。
レナは可愛いものには目がないのですよ。
あのぬいぐるみとそっちのぬいぐるみはレナの好みだね。
はうかいいね。お持ち帰り。
ダメだよ、まだ準備中だよ。おい
レナ、ダメ。まだ準備中だってさ。ちゃんと回転したら根こそぎさらってやりな。
もうダメだよ。レナのものなんだよ。お持ち帰り。
Rena lost her marbles over the stuffed animal. Everybody laughed. Everybody except Satoko. She was standing by herself some distance from the crowd. Her eyes looked dull.
なんですのリカ。
Rika walked up to Satoko, smiling ear to ear in an effort to cheer her
今日
up.
は何も考えなくていいのですよ。いっぱい楽しく過ごしましょうなのです。
Satoko looked down. Even if she got to have fun today, her circumstances at home wouldn't change.
さとこ、意地悪なおばさんは今日はそんなことは分かってますわ。ならいっぱい笑っていっぱい楽しくなるのですよ。みぱーみぱーみぱー。あいにくですけど、そういう気分になれませんの。申し訳ございませんけど、放っといてくださいませ。どうしてさとこは笑いませんですか？
Satoko sulkily glimpsed at Rika. She gave her a look, as though she wanted to say that Rika should know the reason. Even if she could have fun today, nothing would change between her and her evil aunt. No matter how fun the festival was, once she went home, her aunt would be there. The aunt would find something wrong with Satoko, get mad, and shout at her so loudly that the neighbors would hear. How could she have fun even just for today while knowing all of that? Satoko didn't say that out loud, but her eyes betrayed her emotions to Rika.
ではさとこの辛いのが今日でおしまいになるなら、さとこは笑ってくれますですか？
Satoko gasped. She thought that Rika might do something to help. But soon after, she realized that Rika was just trying to comfort her. Which... thinking back on the events of Himatsubushi, you can kind of tell why she asked this question specifically. If your suffering ended today, would you smile? Would you be happy about it? Could her suffering end today? Because of Rika. How? Sadako knew that there was really nothing Rika could do, and so, after just one moment of freedom, Sadako fell into depression again.
リカくだらない気休めは聞きたくないですわ。サトコ
Rika's voice was clearer than Satoko's had ever heard before.
もう決まっていることなのです。
June 20th, 1982, 8:11 p.m. Satoshi snuck out of the window after supper. He heard the distant ruckus of the festival. The festival would end at 9 p.m. After the Watanagashi ceremony, there was going to be a raffle drawing. So, there were two types of people in Hinamizawa. Those who would go home for dinner, and the ones who would stay until the raffle was over. Either relaxing at home or still at the festival. There were only those two patterns. On top of that, there weren't many neighbors in the vicinity of Satoshi's house. As a result, he found nobody on the streets. On that night, the small village seemed especially desolate. Satoshi knew it was going to be like this. But he would keep worrying until he saw it for himself. He was barefooted and started running without hesitation. He felt as though he'd become a wild animal running on his bare feet. He got the impression that he could run faster than usual. Not only his running ability, his vision, his hearing, and his sense of smell. All of his senses were heightened. Just like Keiichi, including his sixth sense. He could almost sense the presence of people in the distance, if only when crouching like an animal. It felt strange, as though he had stepped into another world. He'd been feeling tense and anxious until today, battling with his own fear. But now he felt as though he had metamorphosed into a different person. June 20th, 1982, 8:37 p.m.
それではお楽しみ抽選会の説明をこれより始めますので
I think this is the first time we've heard of a raffle in the or during the Watanagashi.
どうぞ皆さん櫓の周りにお集まりくださいな
The festival had reached its climax. The raffle was going to start. Both the women who were dancing and those who were waiting for the raffle to gathered around the altar. This was the first time they'd held a raffle. Okay, well that's why. The planning committee decided to hold one from this year onward to attract more people to the festival. At first, the prizes were things the committee members had donated, but Oryu, not appreciating how pathetic they looked, had them thrown away. Oryu took the initiative and bought a brand new TV, a washing machine, a cooling fan, and other such things for the raffle. The committee wanted to keep it small initially, but it turned out big thanks to her. Oryu was upset because the committee members weren't enthusiastic enough in her opinion. Some of the members thought it would be difficult to prepare prizes of equal value the following year, so this might be the very first and last raffle. That's why, okay.
お嬢さんのおかげで本当なすんばらしい商品になったね。だいぶかかったんじゃないの？運営費で立て替えするよ。
すったらんな程度で立て替えなんてアホらしい。銭金の問題じゃないんね。たく。
まあまあそう言わないで。お嬢さんのおかげでできた抽選会なんだから。
こんな私一人でどうにかすりゃええんちゅうわけとちゃいなや。パホクサ。
The major, Kimiyoshi, was having a tough time pacifying Oryu. All of a sudden, one of the committee members burst into the tent in a rush. He looked upset, so Kimiyoshi assumed that somebody probably got hurt in an accident.
どうしたの、牧野さん。そんなに息を弾ませたら心臓が破れちゃうよ。
Kimiyoshi made a joke to calm him down. Makino, however, still looked tense. He whispered something to Kimiyoshi. Even without hearing the exchange between Makino and Kimiyoshi, it was plain as day that they were bad news.
お嬢さん、悪い話なんだけどいいかい？
Kimiyoshi, accompanied by Makino, moved to Oryu's side and spoke in a very serious tone. Kimiyoshi whispered to her the exact same words that Makino told him.
いやはや、参ったよな。
参るも参らもなんね。三度あっちゃんは四度あるっちゅうこっちゃな。
お嬢さん、そりゃ笑えないや。
面白い話でもなんでもなぎゃ。 面倒が増えただけっちゃね。
警察が今身元を調べてるらしい。どうも相当顔面をやられてるらしくて、身元の特定が難しそうなんだと。
顔がわからんでもおおよその想像はつくっちゃな。
え？心当たりがあるのかい？
Oryu glared at Kimiyoshi and started chuckling.
バカが。綿流しの祭りにも顔を見せん。不信心者に決まっとろうがね。ちゃんとお社様を敬って祭りに来ちょるんは、そんな目には合わなんとよ。
Oryu kept laughing. Kimiyoshi and Makino didn't know how to react to that. June 20th, 1982, 9:04 p.m.
しかし
It's Oishi.
こりゃ無残なもんっすね。
クマちゃん、死に方ってのは本人が望んだものでない限り、どんなでも無残なもんです。
Kuma does appear. We finally get to see what Kuma looks like. I thought to myself, maybe he's got a console portrait. And he does. There he is. There's Kuma-chan. We finally know what Kuma looks like. Does he have one for this? He does not. Oh god, Oishi, you look fucking horrifying. Ugh. Oh, that remake art always gets me. It always looks terrible. Anyway, sorry.
お悔やみ申し上げちゃいますよ。そっちどう？ポッケの中身とか個人が特定できそうなものは？
The forensic investigators shook their heads.
サンダル履きで服装もラフ。近くにお住まいの方でしょうね。服装の特徴から周辺に聞き込みをすればすぐに割れそうっすね。
それしかないな。課長からこの山一口さしてかかりそうだからって脅されてます。その辺注意してくださいよ。
了解っす。
Kumagai gathered some officers and gave them
入江
directions.
先生が到着しました。先生、あそこです。
A young doctor got out of his car and headed in the victim's direction.
どうも。遅れて申し訳ありません。抽選会の手伝いの最中だったもので。
先生、今日の祭りでだいぶ飲んでたでしょう。アルコール本当に抜けてます？後で風船でも膨らましてもらっちゃおうかな。
ご安心を。
Oh.
運転はスタッフに代わってもらってますので。
そりゃ卒がない。
I thought Oishi was joking, but no, he's being like really fucking serious right now. He's being a cunt right now on purpose.
おい、先生通してあげて。
There was an area cordoned off with blue plastic sheets. An officer rolled up the sheet and let Oishi and Idia pass. The forensics people were taking photos from many different angles. The blood splatters and the bloody sandals were left untouched, marked with chalk and indicated with small alphabetized plates.
こういうものは見慣れませんね。
Idia took out a handkerchief to cover his nose.
匂いがダメな時は口呼吸にするんですよ。まあこういう匂いは目でも嗅げちゃうかな。ね。
The body appeared to be that of a middle-aged woman. It was soaked in blood. It looked like a middle-aged woman because of the hair and what she was wearing. The reason why no one could be certain it was a middle-aged woman was because its face was completely pulverized.
ひどい。
十中八九怨恨の線でしょうな。血痕とサンダル裏から見てここで殺したのは間違いないでしょう。でも見ての通りここは人通りが少ないと言ったって往来のど真ん中です。ここで頭部がひしゃげるまで殴り続けたってのはちょいとまともな話じゃないですからね。でね、ほら腕とか見てみてください。
Oishi put on latex gloves and lifted the corpse's arm.
腕は綺麗なもんでしょう。
それはつまり腕で防いだとか抵抗したとかそういう痕跡がないという意味ですね。
さすが高学歴。仏さんはおそらく最初の一撃で脳震盪かなんかで気絶したんじゃないかと思うんです。で、星は確実に殺した手応えを得るためにさらに打撃を加えた。さらに言えば仏さんはその時うつ伏せに倒れたように思うんですよね。ねえ、服の汚れ具合からの勘ですが。
遺体は仰向けですね。
星は後頭部を散々潰して明らかに頭蓋骨が砕けてる手応えを得ているにもかかわらずわざわざ顔面を潰してるんじゃないかと思うんですよ。
Idia looked like he was going to throw up, both because of the putrid smell and Oishi's
遺
reasoning.
体の顔面を殴るってのは私の経験じゃかなり怨恨の線が強いです。それもだいぶ濃厚な濃密なね。ってことはつまり星は仏のかなり近辺にいるのは間違いないかと。
私を呼んだのが救命活動ではないということはよくわかりました。
Well, you certainly didn't call me over to perform CPR.
先生、この人が誰かわかりますかね。わかれば聞き込みの手間がだいぶ省けるんですがね。
Idia looked at the body once again. He looked away quickly and thought. Then after a while, Idia left the investigation area without saying anything.
すみません。私にはわかりかねます。
本当に
Huh? You sure? Oishi smirked and looked into Idia's eyes, as though Idia was hiding something.
別に隠してなんかいません。
先生もアルコールがまだ抜けきってないだけですよ。頭が冴えたら思い出すかもしれません。思い出したら教えてくださいね。
Oishi tapped Idia on the back. The doctor, saying he wanted some fresh air, left the scene. Kumagai returned.
おいさん、課長から無線です。1号車の無線っす。
イリアの先生、ごまかしたな。いえ、こっちの仏の聞き込み急いでください。ほぼ間違いなくこの近くにお住まいです。
June 20th, 1982, 9:39 p.m.
おいさん、連れてきました。
どうも。こんな夜更けに申し訳ありませんね。明日も学校なのに本当に申し訳ないです。
いえ。
Oh. Hmm.
お父さんはどちらへ？
うちの寄付はあまり帰ってきませんので。
おお。いつ頃から？最後に帰ってきたのはいつ？
さあ。義母と喧嘩しているのを聞く限りは、沖宮でどこかのキャバレーの人と同棲してるとかなんとか。最後に会ったのはあまり覚えてないんですけど、先々週ぐらいだったかもしれません。
お父さんの連絡先はわかります？
いえ。
キャバレーの人と同居してるって言いましたよね。なんてお店かわかります？
いえ、沖宮のどこかにあるとしか知りません。
お父さんの名前は？
北条哲平です。
Oishi signaled Kuma with his chin and who nodded while taking notes.
お父さんとお母さんはあまり仲良くなかったですか？
程度の度合いは分かりませんが、よくはなかったと思います。
率直に聞いて申し訳ないですけど、お母さんに恨みを持っていた人間とか知っていたら教えてほしいんですがね。
よくわからないです。
そうですか。じゃあもしも思い出したらでいいので、その時は教えてくださいね。これ私の名刺です。ここに電話番号ありますので。
はい。
じゃあ後日またいろいろとお話を伺うこともあるかもしれません。もしもお父さんと連絡がつきましたら、沖宮警察署の大石まで至急ご連絡をとお伝えください。
Hey Dad, the cops want to see you real quick.
くまちゃん、北条さんを自宅まで送ってあげてください。
いえ、一人で帰れますから。
いえ、そんなこと言わずにぜひ送らせてくださいな。お母さんを襲った犯人がまだ近くにいる可能性があるんですよ。あなたもまた狙われない保証なんてないんですからね。
I'm trying to remember. I believe they mentioned something along the lines of Satoko's aunt had been beaten to death within her own home. So what's her body doing out here, if that makes sense? Could it be that Satoshi, snuck out of his home, was barefoot, went to grab his bat, ran back into his home, assaulted his aunt, like he started beating her, and then she ran out into the forest. Satoshi chased her, was able to knock her down and then just kill her. Is that what happened, or are they outside of his house right now? And Satoshi's like, nah, I can go home. And then he just leaves the crime scene, turns to the left, and goes into the door of the house that's right next to where all this shit is happening.
お気遣いありがとうございます。でも本当に結構ですね。
Satoshi tried to reject the offer, but Oishi and Kumagai insisted. In the end, Satoshi was forced to accept. He turned around to leave, when Oishi spoke to him as if he remembered something he'd forgotten to say.
北条さん。
はい。
大丈夫ですよ。心配しないでください。犯人はすぐに捕まりますよ。
手がかりとかあるんですか？
It just happened. Do you have any leads?
ありますよ。
どんなですか？
捜査上の秘密ですよ。
Ordinary people might think that Oishi was trying to cheer the poor kid up with making a joke. Right? Like the average person might consider this to be a joke. But real Oishi heads know he's fucking with him.
人を殺すってのはかなり感情の高ぶるもんなんですよ。
Right?
そりゃ冷静に殺してみせるロボットみたいなのも稀にいますがね。
You heard the word roboto in there. So you can assume he meant something along the lines of, usually people get pretty worked up when they commit murder, but some might become as stoic as a robot, maybe.
感情が高ぶると何かわかるんですか？
人は極限まで感情が高ぶるといろいろ体に反応が出ます。発汗とか脱毛とかね。 殺人現場に犯人の毛髪が落ちているってことは割とあることなんですよ。まあここは屋外ですからね。現場が絨毯の上ってのとはだいぶ勝手が違いますが。
犯人の毛髪は拾えたんですか？
さあね。鑑識の連中が大列組んでさっきから行ったり来たりしていろいろ探してます。まだ結果待ちでね。何が出るやら今
明日があるので今夜はもう帰ります。
そうなさってください。クマちゃん送ってあげてください。
了解っす。
では北条さん、また近いうちに進展があったらお知らせしますよ。北条さんも何か思い出したりしたらぜひ教えてくださいね。憎き母の仇の逮捕に協力してまいりましょう。うん
Sis called the morning after the Watanagashi festival to tell me that the curse had struck again for the 4th time. The victim was the evil aunt who was harassing Satoshi and Satoko. Satoshi's suffering should be over now, since the problem was with Satoko and the aunt's relationship to begin with. Maybe I should have celebrated, but I wasn't in the mood for some reason.
犯人ってもう警察は目星をつけてるのかな？
Sis went quiet when I asked
さ
that.
あね。大石の野郎がしつこく聞き込みをして回ってるみたい。犯人は近しい人間に違いないと思ってるようだね。
Being identical twins, Sis and I thought very much alike. If I suspected Satoshi of being the murderer, so would she. Because of this, I didn't have to mention the obvious.
サトシ君って祭りの日にアリバイあります？
ああ、どうだろう。
はあ、
I heaved a huge sigh.
バカですね。サトシ君は祭りに来ていた。そういうことでいいじゃないですか。
そうだよね。
Listen to the background noise. Besides the Higurashi, you can vaguely hear that that whooshing sound that comes whenever there's like an eerie situation. You can barely hear it.
気が利かなくてごめん。
I heaved another sigh. Sis was stupid enough to forget to make an alibi for him, even though the murder of his aunt alone would raise enough
じ
suspicion.
ゃあ、やっぱりサトシが？
サトシ君が殺したかどうかが問題じゃないでしょ。サトシ君が犯行の時間帯にアリバイがあったかが重要なんです。ったく。
後で警察がうちに来るみたいだから、来たらサトシは祭りで一緒だったって言うよ。
お姉、取ってつけた嘘なんか何の役にも立たないです。何も手を打たなかったなら今さら小細工しても無駄ってことです。せいぜい正直に喋ってください。お姉は芝居が下手なんだから変に意識するとかえって勘ぐられますからね。
ごめん。
She sounded depressed. I was the one who should have been depressed. Mion usually handles things well, but she's not too good with emergencies. I was left worried for the future of the Sonozaki family. Mion must have been embarrassed. Well, yeah. She soon changed the subject.
シオン、最近はあまりバイトに行けてなかったでしょ。
ご検察痛み入ります。おかげさまで。
ごめん。今日は私夜まで姿を隠してるからバイトに出られるんじゃない？
Sis had been appearing in public places during festival preparations and whatnot. As a result, I hadn't been able to pretend to be her. I hadn't been able to work. As someone who had to support myself, it was a bit of a pain. To be honest, I didn't feel like working, but I couldn't afford to be sitting around either. When I locked my apartment door before leaving, the door of the next apartment over was open and Kasai appeared.
シオンさん、お出かけですか?
And then, of course, this is a new background. So here is the original. And here's the apartment through the console version, which is interesting. It's interesting that they chose a different angle for this. Considering here, you know, we get to see more of the apartment complex as a whole, but anyway.
そんなとこです。お姉が姿を隠してくれるそうなんで、久々にバイトに出ます。葛西、暇だったらおじさんの店まで車を出してもらってもいい？
シオンさん、しばらくはバイトを控えられた方がよろしくはないですか？事件のせいで警察は園崎家界隈を監視しているようですし、あまり姿を表に出さない方がいいのではないかと思います。
お気遣いは嬉しいけど、バイトしないと食費もないわけですし。
Yeah, but they're gonna wonder how the fuck you got out of the main house when they've been stalking it. Kasai might suggest he donate money to my cause. However, I had sworn to myself when I started living here that I wouldn't depend on Kasai. While I don't obey anyone else's rules, I stick to my own. Kasai could tell that I was adamant in my decision. So after repeating himself a couple of times as a formal procedure, he decided to give me a ride after all. And look, we're back in Tokyo. Actually, hold on. Never mind. Every time we went to my uncle's store by car, we stopped at this traffic light. I knew it was going to happen again, but it still irritated me. Pedestrians passed by in front of the car. I was startled to see one of them look like Satoshi. It was him. Though I'd spoken with him on the phone just a couple of days before, it'd been a while since I saw him last.
葛西、悪いけどおじさんに、やっぱ今日のバイトは行けなくなったって伝えてくれる？私、ここで降ります。
え？シオンさん。
Kasai looked taken aback, but I got out of the car regardless. The light turned green. The car behind him honked while Kasai was shouting at me, so he had to start moving. Satoshi was on his bike, but he was going really slowly. I caught up with him in a flash and tapped him on the back.
ハロロー。沖宮で会うなんて奇遇ですね、サトシ君。
If I talked to him with a smile, he might smile back. So I smiled as brightly as I could. He looked as tired as always. But I could tell he was trying to smile back. My worries suddenly disappeared. I was certain I looked happy. I was aware of that myself, so it must have been obvious to Satoshi.
何があったか知らないけど、ミオンが楽しそうだね。
ええ、楽しいですよ。サトシ君の機嫌が良さそうなので、私も釣られて機嫌が良くなっただけです。
When I teased him, he looked a bit embarrassed. It was like we were back in the good old days. I felt even happier than before.
サトシ君こそ、何かあったんですか？何か機嫌が良くなるようないいことがありましたか？
いいことなんかないよ。おばさんが亡くなって、警察とかご近所とか、いろいろ大変だよ。
He seemed to be okay with it, though. He'd frowned a bit at first, but Satoshi continued smiling gently. He looked worn out but satisfied, like he had accomplished something great. That was the mood I sensed from him, so I was convinced. The one who killed that wicked aunt who tormented Satoko was him. I had absolutely no proof, but I knew it intuitively. So I omitted all of those questions. I knew Satoshi's motive for killing his aunt and how badly he was driven into a corner. I knew the environment and the situation he was in. And I knew Satoshi's feelings. I knew all of that. So I omitted all of those questions. I wanted to celebrate his release from that curse, so I smiled like nothing was different as I asked.
サトシ君はどこかへお出かけですか？あ、バイトかな？
正解。その前に、 寄り道なんだけどね。
寄り道？
毎日ちゃんとショーケースにあるのを確認しないとなんだか不安で。
That conversation reminded me. The reason he started his part-time job was to buy Satoko a huge teddy bear. It was being sold at a toy store just down the street. I recalled that the teddy bear was very expensive. Satoko's birthday was right after the festival. I wasn't sure what day though. Wait, didn't he say he quit his job? Maybe he was going to greet his ex-coworkers and clean out his locker or something. Either way, he'd be completely free very soon. Maybe he hadn't been paid yet and that's why he wanted to check if they still had the teddy bear. Maybe he was only getting paid on Satoko's birthday. When we got to the near the toy store, he rushed to the display window. He looked relieved that it hadn't been sold yet.
よかったよかった。大丈夫。ちゃんとあるよ。
買えるだけのお金は稼げてるわけですよね。なら予約とかしちゃえばいいのに。
もう。
He probably hadn't thought of that. He really did need someone to look after him. I looked into the display window over his shoulder. The teddy bear wasn't that cute, in my opinion. It looked huge and cramped in the middle of the store's showcase. Really, it looked more like a display model than an item for sale.
値札がついてないけど、これ本当に売り物なんですか？これ一体いくらするんです？
It's 100,000.
売り物なのは確認したから間違いないよ。
値段は？予算は大丈夫？
大丈夫だよ。ちゃんと確認してあるよ。
Satoshi thought I was teasing him again. He pouted and looked a little sulky.
予算が大丈夫なら問題ないじゃないですか。なら予約しちゃいましょう。その方がサトシ君も心の荷が下りていいでしょうしね。
We entered the store and looked for a clerk.
誰もいないのかな。
そりゃ好都合です。サトシ君、お給料日を待たずにぬいぐるみが手に入るかもですね。
ダメだよミオン。
冗談ですって。軽く受け流してほしかったんだけどな。ひょっとして私が盗っ人の真似を平気でできる女だと思ってます？
And once again, you can see like the N64 controllers and the TVs and everything in the back. This is still a really neat like timepiece.
あ、ごめん。
Satoshi smiled apologetically. I puffed up my cheeks to tease him. It had really been a while since the last time we did this. In between those times, many undesirable things happened that I wanted to forget. But now I felt as though all those things simply vanished into the air around us. I found an old person napping in the back. He must be the clerk, I thought. He looked to be fast asleep.
お店の方ですよね。
I poked his shoulder, but he didn't look like he was going to wake up. When I did that, a middle-aged woman wearing an apron came in.
おじいちゃん、店番頼んだのにすっかり眠りしちゃった。お客さん来てるってのにもうごめんなさいね。うちのおじいちゃんももうすっかりボケちゃって。
The middle-aged woman shook the old man awake and told him to go back to the living room. She went to the cash register after that.
お恥ずかしいところ見せちゃってごめんなさいね。何かお買い上げ？
あ、買うんじゃなくて予約なんですけど、いいですか？あのショーケースの中の一番大きいぬいぐるみなんですけど。
あれ？いいの？値札見た？かなり高いけどお小遣い大丈夫なの？
あ、はい、ギリギリ足りるはずです。
もうすぐバイトのお給料が入るそうなので、それまで予約したいんですけど。
The woman looked a bit hesitant at first, but she eventually wrote down Satoshi's name and accepted the reservation. Satoshi received a slip of paper.
ね、これでもう誰かに先に買われちゃう心配はもう必要ありません。
うん、お給料がもらえるのはもうすぐなんだけどね。これで安心できる。
He would have kept coming back to check every day if he hadn't done this now. He would have spent his time needlessly worrying. Satoshi looked very relieved indeed.
これなら もっと早くに予約をしていればよかったな。
普通の人は欲しいと思ったら即予約します。そういう思考に至らないサトシ君はちょいと希少です。
It's so very fun to tease him. Those painful days seemed unbelievable now. Satoshi looked like he'd forgotten something. Sorry, he'd forgotten everything that happened up until yesterday.
でも、ありがとう。
Satoshi held out his hand to touch my head. Was he going to stroke it? I felt my face reddening immediately. Even before he touched my head, I felt tingly, remembering the last time. I didn't care about the murder or whatever else happened. As long as Satoshi had his freedom, everything would be all right. I'd be content as long as we could live happily from today onward. But Satoshi's hand never reached my head. I slowly opened my eyes, only to realize that the situation had drastically changed. There were 4 men in suits blocking our way. It looked as though they'd been waiting for us to exit the toy store.
どうもどうも。
Oh. Mion Sonozaki, huh? The oldest of the 4 men stepped forward while smirking. Actually, is Kuma here? No. Or if he is, we don't know about it yet. I'd never met this man, but it looked like he knew both Mion and Satoshi. He was probably a cop. I ran a search for information in my head and found some right away.
北条さん、園崎さん。いい雰囲気だったところを邪魔しちゃって実に申し訳ないです。
This must be Kuraudo Oishi, the cop who's investigating the series of mysterious deaths. He thinks that the Sonozaki family is behind all of the cases. In other words, he's an enemy of the Sonozaki family. He has deep connections with other investigation divisions in the police force and likes to nose around in the business in this area. He annoys the Sonozaki family enough as it is by interfering with its Yakuza business, let alone his suspicion on the series of mysterious deaths. Naturally, as the family successor, he's not a welcome figure to Mion Sonozaki. I try to imagine how Sis would react.
ありゃ、大石さんですか。お仕事ご苦労様です。大の大人が4人も揃って、おもちゃ屋さんに何かご用で？まさかお人形さん買いに来たってわけでもあるまいに。
I know what they want, and it's not a toy. It was probably not me either. They want Satoshi. I took a look at Satoshi. He seemed a bit uncomfortable. The other 3 cops loosely surrounded us to prevent our escape.
北条さん、実はですね、ちょいと伺いたいお話がありまして。
何それ？任意同行ってやつ？サトシ君、こんなのに付き合う必要ないよ。行こう。
I pushed on his shoulder, but he just stood there looking pale and bewildered. Bewildered? No, he actually looked resigned. Then I recalled Sis's mistake. It's obvious that he killed his aunt for the circumstances. You don't even have to look at the crime scene. How could Mion have failed to create an alibi? That stupid Mion must have spoken to the police without making anything up at all. She must have not told them that she knew where Satoshi was. If she hadn't done anything, the villagers wouldn't work to help her. It was just a matter of time until the police uncovered Satoshi's complete lack of an alibi. The police were trying to corner him and lead him to confess. I looked at Satoshi's face once again. He looked like a dead man. He probably didn't know he could refuse to be interrogated. If he was taken to the station and grilled by Oishi, he'd confess in a minute. Somebody had to protect him. Nobody had ever been there for him. I had to step up now. But how? Would it be possible to alter what Mion had already told them, saying it was a mistake? That wasn't going to work. If I had more time, I'd come up with an excellent idea. But I didn't have that much time at all. To pressure him, the cops were drawing nearer. Satoshi must have felt intimidated. He might end up turning himself in due to the pressure while I'm stuck trying to come up with something. I have to do something now. I have to say something. Otherwise, Satoshi might give in. I have to save him. Oishi drew nearer. Satoshi fell back.
大して時間は取らせませんから。そんな怖がらないでください。
It won't take much time. He just said it. He just said he wouldn't let him out if he caught him now. Satoshi, don't give in. If you give in now, everything you've been working for will be ruined. Satoshi looked like he was at his breaking point. Oishi was clearly aware of it. Oishi smirked and held out his arm to grab Satoshi-kun's shoulder. I felt electrified when I saw that. The hand that shouldn't be allowed to touch Satoshi. The moment Oishi touched his shoulder, he'd give in. He'd go to the police station and confess everything.
サトシ君にアリバイがあるか知りたいわけですよね。
Oishi turned his face towards me. His hand left hanging in the air. I wasn't very prepared for this. I just had to stop Oishi no matter what. I only needed to gain some time. It didn't really matter what I said.
そうですよ。北条聡さんのアリバイが知りたいんです。私たちの捜査がまずいからなのかな。犯行の時間帯にどうしても北条さんのアリバイが見つけられないんですよ。仕方ないから恥を忍んでご本人に直接そのあたりをお伺いしようかと思いましてね。
そんなの本人に聞く必要ないです。私がアリバイ証明しますから。
ありゃ、そりゃほんと。なら助かるな。あの晩園崎さんが神社にいてお祭りの最後まで過ごしていたことはすでにあなたからも聞いているし、そのあなたがそこで北条さんとも一緒だったと言ってくれるなら一番楽なんですがね。でもあんた、以前そのあたりをお聞きしたとき、北条さんのことは一言も言ってませんよね。実はいましてって、今頃おっしゃるおつもりで？祭り会場の誰一人、北条さんを見ていないのに、あなただけは見ていたとそうおっしゃるおつもりで
Oishi's being so fucking mean. He's like, oh? You didn't mention him last time. Are you gonna tell me, even though nobody saw him at the festival, you're gonna tell me that everyone saw him? That he was there with you? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
そうです。私と一緒にいました。それで十分です。
あなたが仲良しのお友達と終始一緒にいたのは分かっているし、私もそれでも一緒にいたとおっしゃるわけで。そいつはちょっと苦しくない？
Is it? Is it a little hard to believe, Oishi? Oishi approached me with a creepy smile. He was teasing me because was he teasing me because my excuse sounded funny? I didn't think so. He was frustrated due to being interrupted when he was about to catch a big fish.
祭り会場でずっと一緒に遊んでたのに、すっかり忘れてて今頃になって思い出したと、そうおっしゃるおつもり？園崎美音さん。
I did get a little scared, but I couldn't stop myself. I could save Satoshi if I revealed my identity. I was aware of the risk. Grandma would certainly capture me if I revealed it. I didn't think of the consequences after that. Notebook, page 27.
っていうか、私ミオンじゃないですし。
And here we have this. We have the parallel again between where Shion protected Keiichi and Shion protecting Satoshi.
だからもともと綿流しになんか言ってません。
あ？
サトシ君とは綿流しの晩は沖宮のファミレスでずっとおしゃべりしてました。エンジェルモートって店ですので、どうぞ店長にも確認を取ってください。
Oishi was still smirking, but he apparently felt confused.
あんた、何を言ってるの？あんたミオンじゃないなら誰なわけ？
園崎シオンです。 ミオンの双子の妹です。初めてお会いしますね。こんにちは。
Oishi looked perplexed, like he didn't believe what I'd said. He frowned.
園崎ミオンさんに双子の妹がいたなんて初めて知りましたよ。あんた、大人をからかってんの？
からかってなんかないですよ。どうぞ戸籍でも何でも調べてみてください。それともお姉を呼んで2人で並んでみせれば信じます？
All the cops looked bewildered now.
園崎シオンさん？
はい。シオンですが、何か？
あんたにもちょっと来てもらってもいいですかね。あんたが園崎シオンさんで北条さんと一緒におられたって言うんなら、
ええ、望むところです。お手柔らかによろしくお願いいたします。
The cops gathered at their car and started discussing something. Looks like they never expected this to happen. I I hope to be able to fake Satoshi-kun's alibi for at least a little while. It shouldn't be too difficult to talk to Sis about this, then forge up an alibi together.
サトシ君、何を聞かれてもエンジェルモードで私とおしゃべりをして過ごしていたと言い張ってください。私が何とかしますから。何を聞かれてもよく覚えていないとか、サトシ君なら下手なことは言わず黙り込んだ方が無難かもです。
Holy fuck. Satoshi wore a startled expression. Though I was telling him something important, he'd apparently decided not to listen.
サトシ君、聞いてます？ここでしっかりしないと刑事たちの思うツボです。
He's probably more shocked about the fact that you just told him, oh hey, by the way, I'm Mion's twin sister. He must have been feeling deceived. No wonder. I just confessed that I wasn't Mion but her twin sister. I really had been deceiving him.
怒ってます？
なんで？
騙してて。
Satoshi started laughing. I didn't know why he'd laugh, because he wasn't the type of person who would laugh in order to hide something.
たまに教室のミオンと話が食い合わないことがあったから違和感は感じてたんだ。やっとわかったよ。
怒らないでくれるんですか？騙してたこと。
Satoshi looked puzzled. It was like he didn't know whether he should be upset about it or not. Or maybe he was only pretending to be that way.
はじめまして。じゃないんだよね。
はい。
そっか。シオンってどう書くの？
Without the Oni character in the middle.
詩を読むの詩に音でシオンです。
シオン。いい名前だね。
じゃあお二人さん、すみませんが署までご同行願いますかね。
Hold on. Poetry and sound. Didn't her name have? Let's see if I can do it like this. Actually, I should probably do this first. Okay. It's like this. Let me double check one quick thing. Sorry. This is more out of like my personal curiosity. I believe this is correct. No, it's not. I kept thinking that they used because if I remember, they mentioned something along the lines of Mion's character specifically using the character for Oni, right, for ogre, somewhere in the name. That's how Mion was spelled. Shion, I remember her character was specifically, I believe they either mentioned that her character was spelled with the word temple, or that she was supposed to be locked up in a temple. It was one of those two. I think it might have been the second one. And I think that's where I might be getting confused with the name. When she mentioned that it's, that it's poetry and sound. Right? And I was like, huh? Didn't you mean temple? Anyway, sorry.
粉末でよければ、コーヒーか紅茶かくらいは選べますよ。
Okay. And one more tip has been acquired. Notebook page 29. So let's quickly go through it. So this is a purple one. I don't remember if we've seen a purple one. But we'll double check in a little bit. Either Satoshi was very smart or very unlucky. Or very lucky. Or maybe it wasn't him. The police found nothing at the crime scene that indicates his involvement in the murder. Yet Satoshi was still the prime suspect. Considering his home environment, he had a strong enough motive. He had no alibi. The police had everything other than physical evidence. It wasn't surprising that Oishi took a chance. He probably didn't expect me to step in, but what I did was a little too what I did was too little to avert his suspicion of Satoshi. Oishi believed that Satoshi did it. He was waiting for Satoshi to fall apart and confess. That's what both Oishi and I were thinking. But that hypothesis was destroyed later on. I'll not talk about it now, but Oishi's theory will be disproven and the police will be thrown into shock. A question comes to mind, that is, who saved Satoshi? I can only think of the possibility that the Sonosuke family invented the culprit. Huh. This is the first time we have a purple notebook. Because again, like I said, if this is person 1, this is person 2, this is person 3, this is person 4, and then this is person 5. Because it could be different people, or these are just to signify something else. But if that were the case, we would not have these diaries, right? We would not have a smudged, crumpled, and torn diary. This is quite something. This has been quite the it's been quite the chapter so far, that's for sure. We've been getting quite a lot of data. But anyway, I'm gonna go back to the tips menu. And I think we're gonna call it here for tonight. So let me swap on over to the ending screen.